One of the most popular episodes on my channel is Smash Wish, where I break down some of my favourite characters that I'd like to see in Smash, regardless of the likelihood that they will ever turn up. But there were some characters that didn't make the cut, and sometimes for good reason. When I did the Smash Wish series, I had a great amount of communication and reaching out by the Smash Brothers community that, you know, some of them liked my selections, some of them didn't. Some of them had their own picks, which was great to see. I love to see those lists. Others would sort of ripping apart what my choices were and why and that kind of thing. But it was a fun debate to have, and I really enjoyed it. And it was one of the best experiences I had, you know, especially for one of the earliest videos I ever did on my channel. If you missed all of that and you want to see what it is, it's probably best to watch that first before I go and spoil some of the selections that I've made. So you can check that out right there. And maybe come back and watch this video after. So here's another 12 characters that I'd like to see in Smash, but also the reason why they didn't make my original list. Number 12 is Crash Bandicoot. Crash has really sort of grown on me as I've got older. I was very much a Nintendo kid, playing a lot of Mario 64 and things, so I never really played Crash Bandicoot when it first came out, but I always saw the appeal. Going back and playing the Crash Bandicoot games in the Insane trilogy, he suits that platform fighter sort of style. He's got enough moves and varieties and power-ups to make up a good, decent assortment of moves. His levels and music would be really cool for the game. But the reason he didn't make my original top 12 is because everybody kind of wants him, and it may even be a foregone conclusion that's actually going to happen. It seemed too much like an obvious choice, and there was a lot more characters I'd like to see from my personal opinion than Crash. I do hope he kind of makes it into the game, because I think he would be a character to actually enjoy playing, being a new type of Crash fan these days. He's a really obvious choice, and I think there'll be a lot of disappointment, if not disbelief, that he won't make the roster in the end. Number 11 is Paper Mario. Paper Mario games I always find a real enjoyment. I don't agree with what people say where they go up and down in different quality. I think generally if you buy a Paper Mario game, you're going to have a good time. And having Paper Mario in the game with all of his kind of paper powers would be really cool and interesting, you know, turning into a paper aeroplane to get back onto the stage, maybe turning 2D to dodge attacks and things like that, rolling up into a paper tube to sort of barrel down enemies. There's a lot you could do with this craft and paper aesthetic that Paper Mario brings to the table. Even the kind of paper craft world that you could have from his level would be really cool. But the reason he didn't make my original list is it's another Mario clone. You know, we've already got Dr. Mario, and for the most part, apart from obviously the gimmicks that Paper Mario would bring, I can't imagine he would be too much different from the normal Mario. There may also be quite a lot of similarities to Mr. Game & Watch, who uses that kind of janky, kind of smaller frame animation kind of style. So although I'd love to see him, and I definitely would use him in the game, we've already got Mario, and we've got Game & Watch, so would he bring anything new? Not too sure. Number 10 is the Prince of Persia. There's no denying the Prince of Persia played a key role in the history of video games. Very graphically impressive game when it was first released in its original form. I never really played the game until it came to the Sands of Time trilogy. And as far as trilogies go, back when that game was first released, it's one of the best trilogies out there. It's currently going to get a remaster / remake, which is going to be cool. There will be more eyes on the franchise again, and hopefully it will come back. The Prince is very athletic with lots of parkour, and with his Sands of Time ability he can rewind time. He uses a sword, which, as we all know, works very well in Smash Brothers. And I think having the level of the kind of Arabian sort of setting at night would be really cool stage to have within Smash Brothers. However, the reason he didn't make my original list is he's kind of been replaced by the Assassin's Creed franchise, which is a crying shame, because I feel that they can both live along one another, as one serves more of a kind of an open world sandbox, while one's more of an action adventure. There's no denying nowadays that the parkour style sword-wielding character is probably more of a staple of Assassin's Creed than it is the Prince of Persia franchise, and apart from the rewinding of time with the Sands of Time, most people would prefer to have Altair or Ezio or one of the Assassin's Creed cast in the game. Me personally, I always thought that the Prince had more charisma than a lot of the assassins you play as in Assassin's Creed. But yeah, I mean, I can't lie to you guys. If they were going to pick one or the other, you know, the Prince or one of the assassins from Assassin's Creed, generally the majority of people are going to choose Assassin's Creed these days. Number 9 is Kalas from Bat and Katos. This is an obscure one. How many people played Bat and Katos on the GameCube when it first came out? It's a very obscure, exclusive RPG for the GameCube. I really enjoyed it. It's a very colourful and interesting world, using a card battle system as part of its fight mechanic. For those that don't know, Kalas is a sword wielder with like wings. One of his wings is like a mechanical wing that he's had grafted for him because he lost one of his wings when he was younger. If I had to explain what Kalas is, if you don't know, he's probably a good mix between Lloyd and Ike. So Lloyd from Tales of Symphonia and Ike from Fire Emblem, sort of mixed together personality-wise. The worlds of Bat and Katos were always really colourful, interesting. They were floating islands, which suits perfectly for the kind of Smash Brothers, you know, knock them off the stage kind of mechanic. You could really do a lot with that. But I guess the reason I didn't put Kalas in my original 12 is because I just really couldn't think of a way to get the main game's mechanic into Smash Brothers. Because Bat and Katos uses a card-based battle system, I just couldn't think of a way of how you would make that interesting in Smash Brothers. Yeah, you can capture things within cards and you use them back on your opponents and stuff like that, but really, if you don't include what Bat and Katos is in this kind of RPG card-based system, you just got another generic sword fighter, which is really sort of doing Kalas and Bat and Katos a kind of injustice. If anybody could come up with a way of making the card system in Smash Brothers interesting, I'm all ears, and I'd be definitely interested to hear what you have to say. But because I wanted Smash Wish to be a series where I go into depth and why the character would be good and how it would honour its series and its franchise, I just couldn't think of anything for Bat and Katos, so I had to leave them off the list. Number 8 is Dr. Robotnik. Now, I didn't actually pick this one, and I said in Smash Wish 3 that it was actually, I heard this selection from The Completionist on YouTube, and I think it's a really cool idea. Going into a bit more depth, Robotnik versus Bowser would be really cool. His moveset just lends well to what you would do within Smash Brothers. So, you know, using his different machines, you know, his egg floating machine to get back on the stage, having all these different electrical equipment to sort of do all the different attacks. His badniks can do different attacks at different times. He just says to me that he would work well in that kind of platform type video game, and he would be really, really different. He would probably be closer to Bowser Jr., but taking it a bit further as being like a heavy version of that character. So maybe like a King K. Rool mixed with Bowser Jr., which it sounds really interesting to play, and I wouldn't mind trying it out. It would also give us more of an opportunity to have more of a kind of mechanical level from the Sonic franchise, maybe the Death Egg or whatever. Oh yeah, I mean, having a Death Egg as a final Smash, I mean, that would be pretty awesome. So with all these pluses, why did Dr. Robotnik make it on my list? Dead simple, I just didn't think of him. He didn't come to my mind straight away. When I finished recording Smash Wish, that's when I heard some other people's lists of him come up. He would be great. I really would like to see him in the game, but I never thought of him, and that's why he's on this list and not on Smash Wish, potentially. Number 7 is Albert Wesker from Resident Evil. I think Albert Wesker is one of the best, if not the best, video game villain in the history of video games. He's smarmy, he's intelligent, he's ruthless. When he made it into Marvel vs. Capcom 3, I was well excited, although it took a while for me to get used to how he played, because he wasn't the easiest character to use in my opinion. But whenever Albert Wesker is on screen in any of the Resident Evils, I immediately just think, yeah, if you're gonna pick a bad guy, he's definitely the one that you want. Maybe he could hunt, you know, summon hunters and lickers into the battlefield to fight for him, but even if you didn't decide to go that route, he would have enough with his guns, punches, his speed abilities, and anybody who's played Marvel vs. Capcom would get an idea of what kind of moves he'd bring. Not to mention the fact that a Resident Evil level would be just purely awesome kind of having, even if they just took the level from Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and just put it into Smash Brothers with more platforms, having the monsters come out of the containers and things going into red alert and stuff, I think it'd just be so awesome. However, I cannot deny that trying to make Wesker and fit the theme of Resident Evil into Smash Brothers is a very difficult task to get right. One, to meet Smash Brothers age rating, and two, to make sure you justify what Resident Evil actually is. The whole point of Resident Evil is its horror zombie kind of aesthetic, and I just don't see Sakurai and the team putting zombies of that realism into Smash Brothers. I just don't see it working. I just don't. I as much I would love it and as much it would be cool, I just don't think it would work. People may argue that they managed to get Metal Gear and Bayonetta into the game, so age ratings are not a problem, but I would counter-argue that with Resident Evil you can't get away from the fact that these grotesque monsters are the reason Resident Evil exists and is the main attraction. So putting the Tyrant, putting Nemesis, putting zombies into the background of a Resident Evil level, you have to do that to truly represent Resident Evil, but in so doing that you don't really meet Smash Brothers kind of age rating, so I can't see it happening. Number 6 is Linkle from Hyrule Warriors. I really like Linkle. I've often said that Zelda games, to be different, I would like to play as Zelda or one of the other characters, or have a choice of different characters to choose from. Hyrule Warriors sort of played into that a lot, and it was fun to sort of play all these characters that are normally NPCs in the game for the first time. And Linkle was a new addition to Hyrule Warriors, a female Link. And you could have just gone, you know, I was just a female Link with a sword and shield, there's no real difference. And they did something different with Linkle. They gave her twin crossbows and some different items and gave her a different personality. Having the crossbows is very different. There's not many people who have that kind of weapon who would use it in the primary way that she does. Yeah, I think she would be a really good, cool character. Why didn't she make it into Smash Wish, my first list? I just think there's other characters with a longer lineage that deserve to be in Smash. And as cool as Linkle would be, for me personally, the 12 that I chose were characters I would like to see a lot more of than Linkle for, who knows, maybe in next Smash Brothers game, if that ever happens. Number 5 is Alex Kidd. Now this is kind of an interesting one. Alex Kidd doesn't have he doesn't have a huge variety of decent games. He's got one or two good ones to his name. He's almost kind of like a forgotten legacy. He does have a new remake coming out, which is kind of interesting. But the most attractive thing about putting Alex Kidd into the game is he's kind of a defeated rival of Mario, and he's been replaced by Sonic the Hedgehog as Sega's mascot. So I don't know, there's just something about me that having Alex Kidd in the game fighting Mario and getting his revenge on Sonic and stuff, it's kind of interesting to me. He certainly plays a big key part in Sega's history, regardless of whether he's been forgotten or not, and I do stand by what I said in one of my other videos, where if Sega may have stuck with Alex Kidd a bit more, they may have not struggled as much when they made the jump over to 3D games, because I feel Alex Kidd probably lends himself better to a 3D platformer style than what Sonic ever did. Maybe Alex Kidd doesn't quite have enough moves, but to be fair, they made characters out of, you know, ice climbers and bits and pieces like that. With Alex Kidd's helicopter and bike, punch abilities and things like that, you can just about make up a decent amount of moves for him, but you'd be scraping the bottom of the barrel to kind of make it 100%, I feel. So I'd love to see Alex Kidd in the game. I think he'd be really cool and I'd definitely use him, but there are bigger names out there, unfortunately, and once again, Alex Kidd, because of pure name and star power, has been left out in the cold. Sorry, buddy. Number 4 is Joanna Dark from Perfect Dark. When Perfect Dark first arrived on the N64, me and my friends were blown away. What that game did graphically and the content that it had in it was incredible. The music, the settings, it just had this kind of feeling to it where this is, at the time, this is as real as games are going to get. Obviously now you don't say that, but Back then we were kind of like, wow, this is the peak of gaming. And Joanna Dark is actually a really interesting character. There's a lot of gadgets you can give her. She was a hand-to-hand combat specialist. There's just a lot you can do within that world, and I think it's a kind of a character they haven't really sort of tapped into too much. Joanna's world is kind of futuristic, kind of, I don't know, Blade Runner, but kind of clean look to it would make a really interesting level. Just including a lot of the music tracks from Perfect Dark would also be really appealing. But when you look at my original list for Smash Wish and you put Joanna Dark against another character that I did choose in Lara Croft, again, it's a trade-off. Lara Croft has a lot more history in video games. I feel she played a much bigger part in what made video games. And if I had to choose between the two, Lara Croft is the one to go with. She just has more history. She is just more iconic than what Joanna Dark is. She hasn't stayed relevant, Joanna Dark, compared to Lara Croft. So yeah, there was probably only one slot for the two of them. They are going to be very similar in the way that they play. You know, hopefully you understand why Lara Croft would win over Joanna Dark on this occasion. Number 3 is Shepard from Mass Effect. I think Mass Effect is one of the greatest video game trilogies ever. I think it's a huge achievement, and Shepard as a character is a really cool kind of blank slate that anybody could superimpose themselves onto and really enjoy. Anyone who hasn't played Mass Effect, definitely pick up the remastered trilogy that will be coming out soon. I just don't... The world itself is enough of a reason to play Mass Effect, and all the different characters and the storylines, everything about it just makes an outstanding RPG series that is unparalleled, in my opinion, to many video games. It's definitely one of the top 10 video games I've ever played. However, very much like Joanna Dark versus Lara Croft, I had to choose between, in my opinion, Mass Effect or Doom, because again they're very similar. And as much as I think that Mass Effect is a great game and Shepard is an outstanding character and what have you, when it comes to Doom Guy, he's just played more of a part in the history of what video games is. And yeah, I know I said earlier that, you know, it'd be difficult to put Wesker into Smash because of the grotesque monsters, and what is Doom if it's not like demons and hell. Anyway, we're talking about Shepard from Mass Effect here. Two characters that are primarily shooting, you know, with weaponry, using the same kind of melee combat and styles. Although the aesthetic is going to be very different between Shepard and Doom Guy, I still think they would probably play very similar in the way that they're portrayed in the game. Not necessarily in their music and the backgrounds, but again, I feel if you were going to sort of make the exception to try and fit a character like that into the game, there's probably more you could do with Doom, level, music, and moves wise, than there is with Shepard. And the video game community would probably lean more to Doom than they would Mass Effect as a whole, maybe. But yeah, as far as I was concerned, I had to choose between two, and I went with Doom. Fight me. Number 2 is Knuckles from Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Now, anyone who knows me knows that Knuckles is probably the most requested character I have for Smash Brothers. When I saw him appear in the game as an assist trophy, I lost my mind. I honestly thought, oh my god, they've put Knuckles in the game. And then when I found out it was assist trophy, I was like, just slight miss. But I just think he'd be so good in the game. He can glide, he can climb, he can dig. He's a brawler with his massive fists. He's just... Even more so than Sonic, he was always designed more to be the platformer of the original 3 cast, it's had so much versatility of what he could do within the Sonic levels. You know, climb into new locations you can get to before. And it would be different enough from Sonic to justify it more. I chose Metal Sonic as part of one of mine because I thought, well, that would be easy. You know, just put a Metal Sonic, Sonic skin over top of Sonic. Done, job done, easy. Why wouldn't you do that? Whereas Knuckles, you need a bit more effort to sort of make it do, because he would be different enough. He doesn't jump as high as Sonic. He's not as fast as Sonic. Although he's got the rolls, it would be a different type of roll. Maybe not so much. You wouldn't have the homing attack for a start, you know. So it'd be a different kind of character. And there was a time when Knuckles was just so important. You know, he was the best character out there. He was the coolest looking character for a while. People just want to be like, I want to play Knuckles. When Sonic 3 first came out. He was just such an important rival to Sonic, and then as the game started going into the adventure franchises, Knuckles started to switch kind of to a different type of persona. I don't know if that was because of what Japanese always wanted Knuckles to be like, but we, especially in the UK, had a very different opinion of what Knuckles was. Due to the comics that he had, he was very stoic, he was very reserved, he didn't like having people around, he just wanted to look after his Master Emeralds and look after the Emeralds and look after his island. You know, he was the complete opposite to Sonic in the best possible way. Not this kind of dumb brawler who's constantly getting tricked all the time just because it happened once, you know? So he's changed a lot of the years, but that's not the reason I didn't choose him for my original list. The reason I didn't choose him is because he is an assist trophy. And although I never felt spirits in the game, the stickers that you collect, had an effect on whether a character would appear or not. And guess what? I was right, because I put Min Min in the game and that was a spirit. I do feel that assist trophies are a different case. If the character is in the game as an assist trophy, I just don't see how you would add a character to it. The easiest way to do it is just to say if this character is being played in the game, that assist trophy just can't be chosen. However, it's just a bit weird. If you've already committed to putting an assist trophy in the game, I just don't see you putting in that character as a main character as well. I don't know. I think it's not the same as having a spirit, is all I'm saying. So that was it. The reason Knuckles is definitely my number one pick for a character within Smash Brothers, except for his assist trophy. So yeah, that just unfortunately drops him down a huge amount of places as a result, just by the maths. Number one is, do you know what? When I was going through and making this list, I came across this character, and I think I made a mistake. I think if I was to remake Smash Wish, he would probably be on the list. He is one of the most important characters that defines the kind of character that I use in fighting games. I didn't choose this character for the list for a very simple reason, and that was because it would be another fantasy sword character in Smash Brothers. And by that time, at that point in time, we had already had loads of Fire Emblem characters, and I just wanted to see something different. And I think I held that against this character. Also, the fact that the last couple of games in the franchise had been a real letdown for me, because they just kept stripping back content every time, and I was paying full price for the game every time that came out. Just felt I was buying a less of a game every time. I really soured towards the franchise, which again, you know, is an unfortunate bias of that. I can't help but think if I would have done Smash Wish again, I potentially would have put this character in the top 12 and taken one of the other characters out as a result. So do you know what? I'm going to do it. I am going to give this character what they deserve. This character deserves a lot more attention, in my opinion, and they should have been on that original top 12 list of Smash Wish. So I'm going to right that wrong right now. So let's do this properly. I'm now going to make this next character choice part of Smash Wish. There was a time where the gaming world stood still, when a Dreamcast exclusive would get a sequel that shook the multi-formats.
Transcending history and the world, a tale of souls and swords, eternally retold.
In an era where the console wars was about power and exclusivity, Soul Calibur 2 would be one of the first titles to collectively raise excitement across Xbox, PlayStation and Nintendo all at once. Regardless of what anyone thought of the Dreamcast, everyone agreed that one of its brightest shining jewels was Soul Calibur, and in 2002, every gaming media was talking about Soul Calibur 2. Guest characters in fighting games are standard affair these days, but back then it was unheard of, and Soul Calibur pretty much started it all. Heihachi on PlayStation 2, Spawn on Xbox, and of course Link on GameCube, complete with stories and unique weapons. Everything that made the first one iconic was expanded upon: the in-depth single player, the characters and unlockables, the graphics and amazingly tight gameplay. In a time where fighting games had pretty much been buried as if the fad was over, Soul Calibur transcended its genre with a game that was easy to play, hard to master, and was the fighting game that everyone had in their collection. Soul Calibur was a bloody big deal. In the early 2000s, having a character in Soul Calibur was as common as a main character in Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. Everyone had their favourite, and variety was plentiful in the tale of souls and swords. However, for me, it was the Zweihandler wielding knight Siegfried. He was my go-to. With his hulking giant sword, people knew I was serious when I chose to step into the ring with this cursed German warrior. But for anyone who doesn't know this character, let me give you a bit of background into the tragic past of Siegfried. Siegfried fell into a bad crowd and often used his sword techniques taught to him by his father to aid him as a mercenary as part of a band of thieves. But on one particular night, after a successful attack on a weary group of knights, Siegfried was horrified to discover that the head he held in his hands was in fact his father's. Driven insane by the act, he convinced himself that someone other than himself killed his father, and the only way to get revenge was the legendary sword Soul Edge, a devastatingly powerful sword of evil. After a long time of searching, Siegfried came across the sword by the corpse of a pirate. Collecting the blade, the pirate awoke to try and wrestle the sword away from the intruder. Salfantes, the previous owner of the sword, was bested by Siegfried, and now the new owner, he set out for revenge. Young, broken and inexperienced, Siegfried was often manipulated by many people into terrible things, be it kings or others with the lust for power, often tasked with quests of evil, weighing down his guilt under a thick layer of blood. All the time the evil claws of Soul Edge seeping into his mind, twisting it ever closer to madness. Many deaths followed, the sword drinking on the many souls that fell at the feet of Siegfried and his weapon Soul Edge. Soon his very body began to reflect his dark soul, and he became the Azura Knight Nightmare. This curse shackled Siegfried for many years, until Soul Calibur, the sword made to defeat Soul Edge, toppled him in battle. Not willing to truly let go of the vessel Soul Edge had wished for all these years, it split Nightmare and Siegfried into two separate beings entirely. Freed from the curse of Soul Edge, Siegfried vowed a journey of redemption, taking up Soul Calibur himself to finally rid the world of the evil Nightmare. Over the course of several games, this story is quite the ride for me. Never was a fighting game so rich with lore, and I swung the mighty sword of Siegfried in the game with a new purpose each and every new release. Even sometimes as the evil Nightmare himself, during the years Siegfried was possessed. His playstyle was a big change for me. When it came to fighting games, I tended to go for the fast characters, but Siegfried taught me a new way to play. Slow, methodical, powerful, overwhelming my opponents in a game of high and low attacks, ever keeping them guessing. Sucking them in to make mistakes, as I know I could never beat them in a game of speed, but I knew they were in my reach much sooner than I was in theirs. Every sword swing was wide and large, covering a huge amount of range and distance. If I missed, I was wide open for counterattacks, but if I got it right, I would have my opponent in a whirlwind of hurt, guessing as to where the giant sword would be coming from next, almost like they were an evading corridor of traps. Playing Siegfried was so invigorating. The sword he wielded was so cumbersome and difficult for the young man to swing, not all of his moves were accessible at all times, as he shifted his weight and braced himself against the blade in an attempt to just lift it. This meant he had a range of stances to master, crouching low, sheathing behind his back, spinning with the momentum of the mighty weapon to swing to confuse and feint the opponent. You get the point. He's a lot of fun to use when you know how. So this brings me to Smash. There is a lot of fancy sword fighters in Smash Bros. Ultimate. Fire Emblem pretty much has got you covered. Parrying may be Soul Calibur's fighting game gimmick, but they are a dime a dozen in Smash, and Cloud has got the giant anime swords on lockdown. But the more I think about it, the more I realise how different Siegfried could be. His stances for one, switching stances could give him access to multiple smash move options and normal swings. Imagine switching to a stance that could prioritise smash attacks in front and behind, then switching again to prioritise smashes above and below. He would always have smashes in all directions, but these stances would change them to cover more ground and to give you more options. Thus his up B, down B and side Bs could all be stance switches, which just give him more access to more smash attacks. A character that would prioritise nothing else but using that smash button, and all of his special buttons would just facilitate that more. There's no one else like that on the roster. Choose the right smash and time it right, and you could KO a wave of opponents in one single smash attack from all sides. Certain stances could also have parries like he has in the game. Also his tilt attacks could prioritise long range pokes and stabs. Because Siegfried would always have the advantage in range, you may never be safe from his giant sweeping sword. Unlike Cloud, who can rely on his magic to set up attacks, Siegfried would be solely a melee fighter, and you would need to hold your ground and bring the opponent into range, but not let them too close, for fear of losing that advantage. It would always be about keeping that mid-range distance, but when that giant sword comes crashing down on your opponent, it could potentially only take a few slices to shatter their guard. But every swing would fully commit Siegfried to an attack, potentially leaving him open for a counter-attack if you miss. All of this combined would mean playing Siegfried is like controlling the battlefield, having ring awareness on where you are and when the opponent is compared to the edge of the stage. Just like it is in Soul Calibur. You standing in the middle of the battlefield with a stance, asking them to test you as they stare at you with a fear and respect in a stalemate. Making them think twice to rely solely on speed and tactics that work with everyone else, but it's not working with Siegfried. Finally, Siegfried's final smash could be his critical finish, where he summons the crystallized powers of Soul Calibur in a mighty beam from the heavens and then brings the giant sword crashing down on his opponent, encasing his enemy in a crystal-like ice with a single powerful sword attack. Siegfried is no nonsense, but no nonsense never looked this elegant. There's an art to it, and the thought of crossing swords with Ike, Cloud and once again Link have me shivering with excitement, and that's the first time in a long time that Soul Calibur has done this. I hear ya, it's another fancy sword wielder, a fighting game that's no longer in the limelight, other more deserving fighters for the roster are out there, there's a lack of video game star power with Siegfried. Characters from Tekken or a whole host of other fighters are more likely to appear than this guy. All of these points, I will admit, work against Siegfried ever coming to Smash Bros. And I am fully aware I am talking for no one else but myself here. Hell, I'd be lucky to see this guy on anyone's top 100 list. But Soul Calibur started the guest characters craze. The creators of Smash Bros themselves are Bandai Namco, the property owners of Soul Calibur. Siegfried's gameplay is an acquired taste, but is very different to other sword wielders already on the roster. I would enjoy a rock-solid standoff powerhouse, slow but defensive character with a heavy emphasis on stances. Just looking for that opening to land that devastating smash attack. It would certainly be a clash of styles that Smash currently doesn't have. Nightmare has been for the longest time the face of Soul Calibur, and he would be more likely to make it into the game if anyone was to make the roster from Soul Calibur. But even if Nightmare was the pick from Soul Calibur, behind the evil mutations and the devilishly blue armour beats the heart of Siegfried. Siegfried played such an important role for me in fighting games and holds so many fond memories battling with my friends. Anyone growing up playing fighting games with me will tend to agree Siegfried was Bill's character. He is one of the last fighting game characters I am missing from my gaming history in Smash Bros. Ultimate. They pretty much covered the rest. I do think I made a mistake leaving him off my last list. So regardless of how improbable it is, how unlikely the announcement could be, whether he is an Echo Fighter of Nightmare or not, maybe Sakurai will do it. Maybe one of the 24 characters I have chosen will make it into Smash Bros. Ultimate. And maybe, just maybe, I will get my Smash Wish.